From Spider-Man often making the dumbest mistakes, to the MCU's repeated failed attempts at humor in serious situations, here's a list of 10 problems that Marvel needs to fix before they crash and burn. So first things first, let's talk about how Doctor Strange and Hulk have been supporting characters for too long. Yup, I'm talking about the two important Avengers who've been key players in some of the biggest fights in the MCU. But after their birth stories, they haven't really had a chance to shine on their own. The Incredible Hulk, which came out in 2008, helped start the MCU. And since then, his character's been in the Avengers movies, Thor Ragnarok, and She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, but only in small roles. And then there's Doctor Strange, who's already saved the universe more than once and gotten a sequel to his first movie. But since 2016's Doctor Strange, he's only helped other characters fight. Even in the Multiverse of Madness, he joined America Chavez and the Scarlet Witch in their fight. In fact, in the post-credits scene of the film, another character asks him for help. So, don't you think a team-up between Strange and Clea in Doctor Strange 3 would work better as a solo movie for the Magician than most of his other appearances? And just like that, you must have also noticed how the Scarlet Witch keeps switching between hero and villain. To be honest, it's always been hard to tell if she's the bad guy or there to save the day. And that doesn't just happen in the MCU, it also happens in the comics. Wanda Maximoff was introduced as an enemy in Avengers Age of Ultron, but she soon joined the Avengers and became an important part of the team. Then, in the Civil War, she was called a terrorist, and in Infinity War, she lost the battle against Thanos. But after Endgame, the character's bad side came back in WandaVision. She was sorry for what she had done, but the Darkhold quickly changed her mind. Again, the Scarlet Witch gave her life to stop the trouble she had caused. If she ever were to come back, she might not be believable as either a hero or an enemy. We don't like it, but at least it's not as annoying as some heroes ignoring massive threats. Why is it that other characters don't always show up when it would make sense for them to? For example, in Iron Man 3, one or more Avengers should have come to save the president. I mean, all of Earth's mightiest heroes should have stopped Tiamat from coming out of the planet's core in Eternals. And Captain Marvel should have known that cosmic bad guys like Loki, Malekith, and Ronan were threatening her home. But since every MCU character can't be in every movie or TV show to help solve the problems of other heroes, their absence is definitely noticed. Now the franchise could either take advantage of how many characters are in it and give them more supporting parts, or come up with conflicts that don't always make people wonder where the Avengers are. Which brings me to my next point about how they've even started to ignore some important characters. Now, fans understand that there are a lot of them to keep track of, so they obviously can't give each one special attention. But if you think about it, some figures haven't been given nearly as much to do. Like Valkyrie, Wasp, and Drax, they haven't done much since they were first introduced. And each time they've shown up, they've only had small parts. So even though not every MCU character can have their own movie or show, they could at least do bigger things or have more exciting character arcs that earn them respect. Although this next superhero is fairly important, he just can't seem to do anything right. Spider-Man's somewhat new to the universe, and let's just say it gets pretty obvious from the mistakes he makes. Remember when Holland's Spider-Man put hundreds of people in danger when he intervened against Tony Stark's advice in Homecoming? Plus, he also willingly gave Mysterio Iron Man's technology in Far From Home. And then, in No Way Home, he brought his most powerful villains straight to Aunt May instead of keeping them in jail. But now that Tom Holland's character knows that with great power comes great responsibility, let's hope he's more careful in the future when he acts like a hero, especially when he's facing conflicts that are too much for him to handle. Oh, and speaking of conflicts, they often become too large in scope. Huge, action-packed fights are a common part of superhero movies and TV shows, but they don't have to be in every single one. Often, a story calls for an intimate climax and a calm confrontation between the hero and the villain, like in Captain America, Civil War, and Loki. But many MCU movies have instead gone for world-ending threats that don't fit well with the rest of the movie, like in Black Widow, Shang-Chi, and The Legend of the Ten Rings. Most fights aren't as big as the big ones, so bringing them down could make the big ones seem bigger. Especially movies like Quantumania could have better helped set up big events like Avengers, Kang Dynasty, and Avengers Secret Wars. In fact, another super annoying trend is how Marvel deaths are rarely permanent. In comic books, death is a temporary thing, and getting rid of a famous character for good is usually not a good idea in the long run. But this is also true of Marvel movies, where figures like Loki, Agent Coulson, etc. have all been shown to live on in some way. With the multiverse, heroes like Hugh Jackman's Wolverine and Patrick Stewart's Professor X can come back for more visits. However, the fact that lesser-known characters like Quicksilver and the Warriors 3 vanish into oblivion after passing away also highlights this issue. Doesn't this show a clear desire for A-list characters? Luckily, Tony Stark and Natasha Romanoff have been dead for a long time, which makes the idea of death seem more real. But still, they've got to be careful with fake deaths, because they could make real deaths seem less important. And other than that, fans hate that they've started overusing nanotech suits and masks. The big reveal of Iron Man's nanotech suit in Infinity War was a huge change, as it was the peak of Tony Stark's genius before he died in Endgame. But by phases 4 and 5, nanotechnology was so widespread that it didn't seem like a good idea anymore. Now, costume changes happen in an instant, and superhero outfits look like single layers of weightless fabric that magically appear and disappear. Plus, given the wide range of skills and backstories in the MCU, it doesn't make much sense that almost every character started using the same kind of technology at the same time. Fans feel that using different kinds of technology, costume materials, and the return of suit-up scenes could really help MCU heroes stand out from each other and feel more real to the touch. Also, since I'm already talking about the company's overuse of things, let's discuss how they keep undercutting drama with jokes. I mean, seriously, someone needs to say it. The jokes don't fit every character. Heroes like Iron Man and Star-Lord are naturally funnier than others like Captain America and Doctor Strange, and titles like She-Hulk, Attorney at Law are naturally less serious than others like Werewolf by Night. Yet comedy shows up more and more in the MCU, and jokes and gags that aren't necessary end up stopping important scenes. In the future, MCU movies and shows could limit comedy to less tense times so that the story doesn't lose all its stakes. Because that's exactly what happened in the main plot of Thor: Love and Thunder and made Gore seem like the wrong villain. So finally, the most important yet annoying problem they need to fix is how character arcs are getting repetitive. Some figures have reached the end of their journeys, while others refuse to move on. For example, Thor keeps making fun of his pain, Doctor Strange keeps learning that he shouldn't always be in charge, Ant-Man is always wanting to spend more time with Cassie Lang, and of course, Hawkeye keeps wanting to quit. Fans think that there are many ways for these characters to grow, so the MCU can give them more interesting character arcs before it's time for them to go. Well, this is it, guys. These were all the problems that Marvel needed to fix before they crashed and burned.